I'm Fatima Firdaus. I'm one of the NHS grad management trainees in the Northamptonshire region. So I have done a round robin within the organisation, starting from an acute trust, which is NGH, came into ICB for a few months before I went into NHS England, and currently placed at NHFT with the Business Partnerships and Programs team. And EDI is one of my personal passions, as have had a vast experience in NHS working as a clinician in the past. So I'll pass on the baton to Diana, who's right next in my screen.
Thank you, Fatima. I'm Diana Belthorne. I'm the EDI specialist within Integrated Care Northamptonshire. So I lead on equality, diversity and inclusion across the system and work very closely with all the EDI leads in Northamptonshire. Thank you.
Satvinder, do you want to give a quick introduction, please?
Yes. Thank you. My name is Satvinder Bhutte. I am EDI Equality, Diversity, Inclusion Manager for Northamptonshire ICB. Thank you.
Thank you, Satvinder. Thank you. Monica, last but not the least by any means.
Yes. So I'm Monica Higgins. I'm one of the staff forum chairs, and I have a general interest in EDI and a personal interest as well.
And that trumps every other interest. So I know how it feels. So thank you, Monica. So I'll get started with the presentation. Just a bit about what Ramadan is, the significance of Ramadan for Muslim employees all across the system who are working with close partnership with within our patch. So please feel free to ask or stop me at any point. I can't see everybody. If you're putting up a hand, if somebody could just let me know if there is a hand up. So let me know when you can see my screen. So Ramadan, what is Ramadan? Just a brief overview to people who don't know what Ramadan is, and let me not assume that anybody knows anything. So Ramadan is the 9th lunar month in the Islamic calendar. The Islamic calendar is a bit different than the Gregorian calendar. So the Gregorian calendar says 2024 as the year, whereas the Islamic calendar, which is the Hijri 1445, is what is the date now. And this month lasts for around 29 to 30 days, depending on the sighting of the moon. It ends with a celebration called Eid al-Fitr, which is either the 30th day or the first day of the following month, which is called Shawwal. It is the month when the Holy Book of Islam was revealed to our Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. So it is a very, very important month for all the Muslims all over the world, whether they call themselves practicing, non-practicing. Everybody tries to be a part of the celebrations, because this is one of the 5 tenets of the 5 pillars of Islam, fasting apart from praying every day. So the religious obligation is on every able-bodied Muslim. So this is a bit a point that needs to be noted, because able-bodied is somebody not who's stricken with illness, who's pregnant. There are a lot of caveats where you don't need to fast because of health issues. And this includes a little bit more than intermittent fasting, wherein people have a window of eating where you can drink if you're not eating. Here, there is complete nobody can eat or drink during daylight hours, which is because of the movement of the moon. It spans between 12 to 18 hours, which I will touch upon a bit later. So there are 2 main meals during Ramadan. One is pre-dawn before the sun rises, which is called the suhoor, and one after sunset, which is called iftar. This month is very significant because it helps us to practice self-discipline, mindfulness, charity, which is a big part of Islam, which is another pillar of Islam, and reflection. This is observed by 93% of the Muslims globally, which is approximately a population of 2.1 billion Muslim population. And the other bit to it is it's a time of social gathering when people get together, meet, and have prayers together. Other than the 5 prayers, which are obligatory on every Muslim, there is a special prayer during Ramadan in the evening, which is a bit longer. And that is probably the highlight when people meet, after talk, families meet together. The idea that you are fasting is mainly focused around the concept that how does somebody who is less fortunate feel when they're deprived of eating and drinking? Yes, Diane, I can see you. You want to come in before I go to the next slide, if there is a question?
Yes, please. I would like to know, because during the month there's going to be a period of fasting.
Yeah.
How does this impact on people with diabetes? If we've got somebody within the team who's a diabetic and they're expected to fast, what support can we give them?
Thank you. That's a very, very good and a valid question, which I was meant to touch in FAQs, but I will speak about it here. The first thing is a diabetic person is considered not as an able-bodied. So you have that element of wherein if your physician, your doctor, your GP says you can't fast because your blood sugars are way out of range, you don't need to fast. There are other ways to sort of compensate, which I will go on to a bit later. But if you're fasting, you have to make sure your blood sugars are monitored very, very carefully, rather than somebody who's not diabetic. And the employers need to know. Probably could give them a little bit of a dry run as well, maybe a couple of days before the start of Ramadan. They can fast for a few hours, see how their blood sugars are doing. They're dropping, they're getting hypoglycemic, wherein the blood sugar is too low or they're not able to. They can have a chat with them, refer them to the occupational health. That is occupational health within NHS, but any other team that supports health and well-being within different organizations could be brought into picture. So that probably is the onus not only with the employee, but also the team or the managers that manage such employees who are diabetic or have any other health conditions, like even something type 1 diabetics is more the ones who suffer a bit more than the type 2. Because so if they are there, it's more than necessary that they get the right support during this month if they are fasting. And the other thing is, if they are unable to fast, they need that support as well, because sometimes they feel a bit left out because the rest of the people are fasting. So they might need a bit of support emotionally. So that needs to be taken into consideration as well at times. I hope I've answered your question. Thank you, Diana. Satwinder, yes, come on.
I was on a mute. Quick, just talking on diabetes. I know that during Ramadan, you not to drink or eat anything. But if you are diabetic and you have to inject yourself for penicillin, no penicillin, sorry,
insulin, yeah.
Insulin, yeah. Is that then okay, because you are not passing through your throat, but it's still going into your body,
Yes.
part of your bloodstream?
Yes, it is, because like I mentioned, there are things that nullify fast. And one of the things that doesn't invalidate the fast is injections. Either it could be subcutaneous, intradermal, intramuscular, any sort of injection that is life-saving. In fact, you could go up to hemodialysis. So this is perfectly okay for people to have injections or anything that is life-saving. There is no element that stops anybody taking medication that is important for their well-being.
Okay, it might seem a daft question, but the question is, I know drinking and eating is prohibited, yes. But there are people I know in our communities, in the Muslim community also, we have people who smoke.
Yes.
And is the smoking, what do they do? What can, I mean, would that break their fast if they do smoke?
100%. Because the what I told you, the caveat is for anything life-saving, and smoking is seen as more recreational.
Yeah,
it's nothing to do with affecting your health or well-being. So smoking, vaping, any sort of thing like that instantly invalidates the fast. Then you have to make up for it in a very different way, which is a bigger thing to do. So yes, you can't smoke, drink, nothing. That is basically the abstinence or the self-discipline. That's where the self-discipline element comes. And it has been reported in studies that this abstinence from smoking or vaping has helped people that actually could give up without the nicotine patches or whatever the smoking cessation service. So this is a good way to give up smoking for people who are struggling if they practice Ramadan fasting. So hopefully that answers the question.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Satwinder. That was a very good question.
Thank you.
So this is how the evenings look like when the whole family sits around the table. There is food. Everybody partakes in the food, sharing, eating. Oh, sorry, I missed one. So this is in a congregation. Islam is a lot about people meeting in bigger groups. These are the people who couldn't afford to have that meal of the day when they're breaking the fast. So there are organizations, there are mosques, there are people in general who want to help people because it is considered a very, very holy thing to help people who are unable to afford food, to feed them when they're breaking the fast. It is as equivalently rewarding as actually you fasting. So that is one way of, I would say, celebrating this month for people who can't fast. They are asked to feed a certain number of people who are fasting, and that is the way of them compensating for them not being able to fast because of any health issues. If I can ask Satwinder to please share these videos. They're basically a bit of a very basic thing about what Ramadan is, what it impacts different people. One is from BBC, which is very, very simple. I like that one. And the other one is a YouTube one. If you could, Satwinder, I'll stop sharing now for a minute. Let me escape and give you the control.
This is the first food 14-year-old Ali and his family have had all day. They haven't had anything to eat or drink since sunrise this morning. It's because they're celebrating a special time of year in their religion called Ramadan. Ali is a Muslim, which means he follows the religion of Islam. During the month of Ramadan, most Muslim people do something called fasting. That means they don't eat or drink anything between sunrise and sunset for a whole month. They can't even drink water through the day. It's pretty tough, but for people like Ali, it's a really important part of his religion.
It's just to feel how poor people feel. You know, they don't get to have a lot of water and food, so that's mostly what it's about. It's a test, yeah.
Just like other religions, Islamic people have certain times of the year to celebrate their faith, and Ramadan is one of them. During that month, they spend more time thinking about their religion, kind of like Christmas or Easter for Christians, or Rosh Hashanah for Jewish people. During Ramadan, Muslim people learn more about the Islamic religion by reading from their religious book, which is called the Quran. And the fasting is to help them focus on that. Each year, Ramadan starts on a slightly different date, because the name Ramadan is actually the name of a month in the Islamic calendar. And that calendar is a little bit different because it's based on the cycles of the moon. Although many Muslims don't eat or drink through the day during Ramadan, they do have some extra big meals before dawn and after sunset. Because having no food or water at all for a whole month would be impossible. But even with these big meals, Ali says Ramadan can still be pretty hard.
It's a little bit hard, especially if you have, like, sometimes we have football games and yeah, we still play, but yeah, we don't drink water.
And he and his cousins say going to school can be tricky too.
Usually my friends come with these amazing lunches from like different places, and then I'm like in the classroom and they're all eating their lunch in recess, and I'm like, you know, waiting for the bell to go and stuff, so that's probably the hardest part.
Yeah, it's a little bit hard. I get hungry really easily, so.
I haven't told anyone about it because I moved to this new school and I haven't fasted there yet. Tomorrow will be my first day fasting at my new school.
Around the world, there are more than 1.6 billion Muslim people. That's almost 1/4 of the world's population. But not all of them fast during Ramadan. People who are pregnant, elderly, or people who are sick often don't. And kids only start doing it after they've reached puberty. But some do practice fasting before then, often just for a few days. Ali has been fasting for Ramadan since he was 10, and he says it's a bit easier this time.
Oh, it was really hard back then. You get more used to it.
And although it's a tough month, these guys love learning about their religion. And it doesn't hurt that there's a big party called Eid when the month wraps up.
At the end we get this big celebration, we go to the mosque and do like our morning prayer and stuff like that, and it's like really fun to meet up with family and stuff.
Well, there's a lot of food, we're allowed to eat, yeah, so, and there's rides and it's a lot of fun.
Ramadan can be a real challenge, but these guys wouldn't have it any other way.
It's the month of Ramadan, and I've been fasting for 21 days. That means no food or water during daylight hours. This is one of the 5 pillars of Islam, so Muslims must do it if they can.
The whole point of fasting is so that you stop thinking about things like food and then you be a bit more spiritual.
Fasting is supposed to teach us self-discipline and to remind us to think about other people around the world who are too poor to afford food.
I'm always snacking on things, and when you don't eat food, it just like makes you realize how other people feel when the people who don't have food.
I don't have to fast until I'm a bit older, but this year I've been practicing to show my devotion to God and my religion. When Ramadan falls in summer, the days are really long. This year we can't eat until 9 o'clock at night.
This is shorba. It's a soup from Algeria. My dad is from.
Is it Algeria?
Yes, tradition. They always have shorba during Ramadan. Okay, can you pass me the chicken, please? Thank you. We're going to put them in a bit. How many days have we fasted so far?
20-something.
So all these days fasting, your stomach tends to shrink. And even though you feel, oh, we're going to eat this, I'm going to eat that.
Yeah.
I can't wait for this, I can't wait for that. You can't really eat that much.
When sun sets, it's time to break our fast.
الله أكبر إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين.
Ramadan falls on the 9th month of the Islamic calendar and lasts for around 30 days. It was during Ramadan all those years ago when the words of the Holy Book, the Quran, were first revealed by God. Ramadan isn't just about fasting. Many Muslims spend more time praying and reading the Quran, and almost all try to give up bad habits. The end of Ramadan is marked with one of the most holy festivals of the year.
It's currently 1:30 in the morning. Eid tomorrow, so really excited for that. Bye.
At Eid al-Fitr, Muslims all over the world get together to pray and party, like at these festivals in London.
We're here today celebrating a Muslim celebration called Eid. It's a fun fair, and I'm not sure what right to go on.
But Eid is also a time to reflect and feel close to God.
So it's thanking God for having the strength to do the fast, thanking God for that opportunity, thanking God for his forgiveness, because forgiveness and salvation are things upon great acts of worship. It's something that we expect. The most profound form of gratitude to God is prayer, right? So we begin our gratitude with prayer. And the rest of the day is about family, you know, it's about eating lots of food, especially in the Eid al-Fitr one after a month of hunger, right?
So thank you for that, Monica. That's really useful. Before I go ahead, I can see Dinah's hand. So let me ask Dinah to come in, please.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing those videos, Fatima. Can I just ask you a couple of questions?
Yes, please. Go for it.
When the fasting happens, do you have to eat lots of food in the morning for breakfast and lots of food in the evening, just to make sure that you get your daily quota? And if that's the case, could you then be like suffering from another sin, like gluttony?
Yes, that's a really very good question. I would love to answer that. Thank you, Dinah. So the first thing is, the idea is that people think because you're fasting, you're not eating anything, you need to overeat, which is not the case. And overeating has its own, I would say, pitfalls in a way, because if you overeat in either of the times, which is the pre-dawn meal, suhoor, you're extremely tired in the day and you feel literally you can't do anything. So the golden rule, which most people who fast for long in their life, and most of us start by the age of 10. I started around, say, between 10 and 11 years of my life. And although they say till puberty, it is not mandatory. What we try to do is have a light meal, mostly something which is a bit protein rich, like anything like an egg, a couple of eggs, if you that's the only meal. Some people, usually what we call the sunnah way is what our Prophet, peace be upon him, did, was have 4 or 5 dates. So there are certain people still who practice this, just have dates, water, or some sort of drink. Maybe some people who are very addicted to tea and coffee and can't survive without it do have a cup of tea in the morning, pre-dawn. And for the breaking fast meal, which happens at the time after the sun sets, yes, you do feel like you want to eat the whole world because you're so hungry. But honestly, as soon as we usually break the fast. Again, it's the way of our Prophet, is you have dates, because that is a complete food, as per it's got the right amount of carbohydrates and everything in it. So as soon as you have a couple of dates, water, and maybe some sort of a drink, because usually what we believe is fasting is causing a lot of heat generation within your body, and it's a way of detoxing as well. So you have certain drinks, milky drinks, some people, some without milk. So depending on the culture, it's very culture based, the food. But whatever it is, as soon as you finish these 3, you're pretty full. Some people go to prayers, come back and have a main meal, which could be anything like what you normally eat in your culture. It could be rice, it could be bread. But yes, I think most of the food that comes on, you prepare, you end up sharing with your neighbors, with others around you. And that's the whole concept of Ramadan. I have seen it in my childhood, and even now. Yes, I do make a lot of food, but then I think we can't eat. And after fasting for a whole day, if you eat anything more, you can't pray in the evening. You literally fall on the bed, and it's quite detrimental to the rest of the evening. So that's how we plan. But yes, there will be a lot of food, and most of it goes in sharing, or sometimes you keep it for the next day. Depends on how it is, but everybody likes to see a full table. That's how. There's fruits, probably 3 to 4 varieties of fruits. Then you have a couple of juices, and then you have something very particular to the tradition, like this video we saw. There was something called shoba, which is very Algerian, North African sort of thing. That is their sort of staple, which they go for every time they're fasting. Whereas in my culture, there's something more carbohydratey with rice in it, because I'm South Asian. So that's how it is. Sorry, Satvinder, a long-winded way to answer the question. I hope that answers the question. Yes.
Yes, it did.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. Thank you. But I'm sorry, Satvinder, I just have one more question. I saw in the video that people still continue to pray.
Yes.
How can employers support our colleagues who are of the Muslim faith to continue to pray?
Yeah, thank you for that. That's probably what I was touching in the support, what employers can offer, but that's a very good question. The first thing is, although there are no breaks for meal times for employees who are fasting, if employers could be mindful that they need to take breaks to pray, if it is feasible and appropriate, if they could offer them a space within that area, working area, where they could just go, a quiet area where they could put their prayer mat and pray. It might not be long breaks, it might be 15 to 20, 25 minutes break, but at least 2 prayers come in the day if they're working, which need to be done before breaking the fast. So that should be, and people who are working shifts will have the time of breaking the fast. So if managers are mindful that there are people who are working on shifts starting in the evening after sunset who need to go and take that break and break their fast, and have a little bit of time to pray. So those are the things, because evening, especially for people doing the night shifts, they have to get through a little bit more of prayer in the evening. So I don't know, if not the whole break time, they could divide it into a sort of smaller bits and give them one time to break the fast, one time to sort of have the pre-dawn meal. So 2 definitive breaks for people who are working on wards, on shifts, so that they don't miss out on the 2 meals that they need to take during this shift. So,
and thank you for that. And absolutely, but in a ward setting, patient safety will need to come first.
Yes, absolutely. And making sure that there is patient safety and everything else taken care of when staff members who need to go out or step out, maybe even staggered. If somebody needs to have that pre-dawn meal, why not start from 1:30, 2 o'clock in the night to give them that break when they can start taking the meals one at a time so that the patient safety is not compromised. The service is running as it should be. So yes, for sure.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Satwinder, please come.
Yes, I must say that I'm one of the probably fortunate one who gets invited by the local mosque during Ramadan to open the fast in the mosque, and normally other community members are invited as well.
Yes.
But just want to ask a question, Fatima. It was in the you have mentioned as well, touched on the fast is normally when people break fast. It's dates are kind of starting with the dates. Is there any significance why dates? Is it to do with the health, or is it is to do with the custom or culture or religion? Could you just
Yes, sure, I will. That's a very good point. Like I mentioned, dates are considered sort of a complete food because they give you the right amount of carbohydrates, the right amount of sugars, which your body needs after fasting for long periods of time. And also our Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, was one of those people who always did that. So it's like a practice, you could say a culture thing as well, a practice that has been set in the religions for us to follow. And as soon as you take that, how much ever tired, exhausted, hypoglycemic you are, even having one day does make that difference. And you feel so much better. And all of the other extra food, what you have on the table, yes, it looks good, but this is probably the best thing you can do to yourself. And it contains all the minerals, necessary vitamins and everything what your body probably needs when it's starving.
Okay, thank you very much. The
Thank
other
you.
question I really need to ask you is if you could, you mentioned about two pillars of Islam here. It's a fasting and a praying. What are the other? Because there are 5 pillars of Islam. Which are the? Could you just remind us?
Yes. So that's a very good question as well. So there are 5 pillars of Islam. One is the first one is being a Muslim, believing in one God is the first pillar, that there is one God, and you need to believe that. The second one is praying 5 times a day, which is the second pillar of Islam. Third is fasting for all able-bodied people. When you attain a certain age, for children, fasting is considered one of the pillars of Islam. And the fourth one is charity. Charity, we have a concept called zakat. Zakat is anything that you earn legitimately. You have to share, partake. I think there is a certain percentage, I don't remember from the top of my head, you have to give to your poor brothers and sisters within the religion, outside the religion, wherever there is the need for it. So charity is a very big part of our religion. And the fifth one is called Hajj, which is an annual pilgrimage to Mecca, which happens after this. Sort of, that is the other big festival we have in Islam. One is Eid, which is this one, Eid al-Fitr, and the other one is Eid al-Adha, which is when people go to Mecca for a certain period of time. It could be anything from 5 days to 14 days and perform the annual pilgrimage, which is to be done at least once in your lifetime as a practicing Muslim. So these are the 5 pillars of Islam. Sorry, Satwinder, you're on mute.
Thank you very much. I think just on the charity, which is zakat, you do, it's a throughout, not just a Ramadan month, is it? It's a throughout the life of
yes.
people need to give. Yeah.
Yes.
The only thing.
That is very, very important, that you're always charitable. As much as possible, you look after your brothers and sisters and who are less fortunate than you are.
Right. And just one last question on the pilgrimage to Mecca.
Yeah.
It has over the years becoming it's quite expensive, out of reach of the normal everyday working people. To kind of do that. And is there if somebody doesn't do it, or I mean, is it depend on your whether you can afford it or not, or is it depends
Yes.
that you should do it regardless?
Yes, that's again a very valid question, which I would like to sort of bring to light, that it depends on your affordability for sure, 100%. What Allah says, and we are told, is He will never push you if you can't do something. There are so many people in this world who couldn't afford that trip, and yes, you're very right. It's sort of grown exponentially, the cost of going to Mecca now, Mecca and Medina, which is probably was, for instance, it was £1,000 a few years ago, and now it's almost close to 5,000, 6,000 per head to go to Mecca for those 14 days for the pilgrimage. So it depends on affordability. So that's where, again, the question of charity comes. There are very well-off, well-to-do brothers and sisters who could sort of sponsor people who can't go. So that is always there. And if you do that, you get double the benefit of doing Hajj, which is going to the pilgrimage. So there are people who still do that, offering people who can't go into for that pilgrimage, that offer of help. So yeah, but it is affordability. If you can't afford, you can't. Yes.
Right. So I believe non-Muslim sponsors somebody who can't afford it would get double the benefit. Yeah.
Yes, definitely. So anybody who has that capability and the affordability can sponsor. So if you've done it once in your lifetime and there is somebody in your family, in your community who you think deserves to go, yes, for sure. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Any more questions? I can't see any hands up. Dinah, did you have your hand up, or shall I go with this?
Yes, I do. Just one more question. I noticed that in the video that you showed that there was a big celebration for Eid.
Yes.
Now, if I'm a manager on a ward and I've got a good part of my team who are of the Muslim faith and they want time off to go to this Eid celebration, I'm going to be tearing my hair out.
Yes.
So what advice would you give colleagues who want to go to Eid, but because of staff rotas, patient safety, they can't? Or even if it's a non-health organisation, because of team capacity, and also because people need to put patient safety and services in the forefront, especially if you're a manager.
Yes,
so
for sure.
What advice would you give on that?
Yes, I think that's very much important. Whatever work you do, at the end of the day, your work needs to be done. And that is a greater part of our religion as well, that you don't shy away from your work for practicing your religion. So what could be done is at least let those people have some time for praying, the Eid prayers, which is very less time, probably 20 minutes is what they would need to go and pray for the Eid. And then some managers could consider, if there is a lot of staff. Now, I have seen in many organizations, especially within the private sector, they do have something like Eid parties within the teams, use the staff room, or sometimes they have organization-wide parties where they have Eid party. Everybody gets one dish, something like a potluck. And people have parties in the weekend when there is more attendance, when people can sort of feel that they don't feel left out. Basically, the whole idea is there are certain people who have the luxury of going into these Eid festivals and enjoying. And then there is a certain group of Muslims who are working hard, doing their duty, which is again considered a very important part of your religion, but they don't get to enjoy that celebration. So to take away that sort of missing out feeling, managers can have something like how we have Christmas parties. Why don't you consider something like an Eid party to at a later time when it is convenient, maybe in the weekends when there is a little bit more staff, or even just letting people a longer lunch break, maybe if it's 25 minutes, give them 30 minutes so that they can get some food in the canteen on the day of Eid. Because I think people on the wards, especially, I have done it in the past wherein I just prayed and go. I never got a chance in my life where I could take a break and have a lunch on an Eid day. And that was quite, I would say, sad and frustrating as a clinician working, and you think everybody else is enjoying and I didn't even have a meal today. So that makes you feel a bit too frustrated with what you're doing. So even getting that 30 minutes of lunch break, dedicated lunch break, when you're on a busy ward is so rewarding in a way. If you don't get all of the other celebrations, Yes, it's nice to be part of celebrations, but you don't always get it, do you? Thank you. So before any more questions, please let me know. But I will get on to the next slide, which is basically something called Ramadan 33-year cycle. There is this small slide which says the 12 months of the lunar calendar or the Hijri calendar. It starts with Muharram, which is month 1, goes on to month 2, which is Safar. 3 is Rabiul Awwal, 4 is Rabiul Akhir, Jamadil Awwal, Jamadil Akhir, Rajab, Shaban, which is what we are in, the month of, and this is the month of Ramadan. And the first day of the next month, which is Shawwal, is the day when Eid happens. So just a bit on the 33-year Ramadan cycle. So I guess all of you remember the time when in July we had long fastings of 19 hours where people used to break fast at 9:30, which happened in 2016 sort of time. And that's probably when we saw the longer days. And it came to a point when we were really, really having very long days. People were struggling, were passing out. And I think there was a time when there were certain countries in the world where the sun never set and they had to figure out how to break the fast within the, I think it was Iceland and areas like that. But coming to 2024, we are in the winter now. So it's 1445 winter. We started this. We will go up to December here, and then we go back on the same cycle, which is autumn coming down to 14, and again we're back into summer in 2040. So this whole cycle, it takes around 33 years, where it comes from winter to summer. That cycle takes 33 years of anybody's lifetime. So that is the 33-year Ramadan cycle. So once you've had it now in spring, we are now into winter. The last one was in spring, technically. So this is what this slide says. If any questions, feel free to ask me later. Supporting staff, this is a quick one. We've touched quite a lot of points on this one, so I will be quite brief. Communication and being mindful, which is please don't assume. Ask staff, what are their needs during Ramadan? Is there anything that has changed for them? Is there any support they need? As an employer, you can offer any health and well-being support or anything else. Avoid scheduling any away days or special meetings with food during this month. Just being mindful that they are not missing out. They don't feel that they're not part of the team. Being respectful and being able to offer breaks for praying during the day. At least there are 2 prayers during working hours which they need to partake. Understanding that tiredness may be a factor. So tiredness, sleep deprivation are quite common during Ramadan, because you have nights when you get up early, around 3 o'clock now, but there was time when we used to get up at 1:30 in the night to eat our pre-dawn meal, but now it's gone to 3:30 this time. So bearing in mind that people are losing out on their sleep, sleeping later, getting up early. So that has to be a factor that is considered, and make sure work meetings or anything that requires high concentration levels is done in the morning. Where possible, where I spoke about staggering the co-working hours to morning times rather than afternoon times when they're a bit more tired, and there is an option, only when there is an option, because not every service, not every place has that option to give employees that staggered working times. If they are working in clinical roles or if there are certain requirements of the job, by all means, they need to be there. They need to do the job. Just being mindful that sometimes there might be a little scope for errors, and that needs to be borne in mind, because employees are tired, especially the starting bit when you're getting used, your body is getting used to, like everything else, the first 5 to 8 days are the hardest ones, because your body is used to eating every time. You're maybe snacking, somebody like me who snacks, and then suddenly everything is cut off. Your body does revolt. It does make you feel, oh, I can't do this. So those first few days are a bit harder, but once you get used to it, you don't even feel the need. Like sometimes you forgettingly put something in your mouth, which I have done quite a few times. And then I realized, oh, I was fasting. How did I eat it? So those happen within the sort of first 2-3 days when your mind subconsciously, you don't realize and you put things, but that doesn't invalidate your fast as long as you didn't do it purposefully. And flexibility to work from home where appropriate to the role and individual circumstances as well, because Not all services can offer that. Not all organizations are able to give everybody the option to work from home. But yes, please, wherever that option is available and could be appropriate. Provision for paid and unpaid leave where it is possible. And like I mentioned earlier, planning the service, bearing in mind that there will be quite a few employees taking annual leave during the last 10 days or for Eid celebrations. I would say I like to do that in my current roles, take some time off during the last 10 days because there is extra prayers. We consider the last 10 days of Ramadan as being the most holy time. And we do a lot of prayers in the night, and that gives us probably very little sleep. So it's nice to have that element of where you can have that annual leave. If there are not too many employees taking, obviously not affecting the service in any way, maintaining patient safety and everything else if it works. So Ramadan is a month of blessings and forgiveness. So thank you so much for being part of this and asking all those really, really interesting and important questions. So I'll open the floor now. If there are any questions, please feel free to ask. Thank you.
Well, no questions.
Sorry, I think we've asked all of the questions, to be honest with you. You threw it out. Thank you for that presentation, Fatima. That's very informative. Thank you.
Thank you for giving me a chance. Monica, anything from yourself? Anything you found interesting? Anything that you have want to ask me?
No, I think I'm just absorbing it all because I really didn't know much about Ramadan at all. And so this has been really useful for me to understand a bit more in depth about what it is, what it means, you know. And yeah, I mean, I've been in Birmingham during Eid, and I've been in a park with my sister, and I said to my sister, "What all these people?" She said, "Oh, it's Eid," and you know, it seems like a lovely time of celebration. So yeah, no, but thank you. I think this has been really interesting.
Thank you, Monica. Thank you for joining us. I think it's so nice to see people trying to understand a bit more about different cultures. One good thing about growing in a subcontinent where I grew up in India, I know all about other cultures. I know I've been very multicultural. I know everything about Hinduism. I have celebrated Hindu festivals. And I'm sure Satwinder agrees with me. That's the whole point. He knows so much about Eid because it's that sort of interaction. But it's nice to see that people are getting to know the differences, because I think unity in diversity is what I believe, because there is that unity. The more diverse we are, it's nice to know the differences. Like we have learned about the English culture. It's nice people are trying to know what different cultures look like. So thank you ever so much for that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. It was a very